You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to our weekend edition of the Cabral Concept. Looking forward to going over your questions, all the questions that have come in from our community over the past couple of months. We'll take a look at those. Each and every week we try to get to about, it usually turns out to be somewhere around 12 to 20 questions combined between the two shows. So when I go through all the questions, really as I'm reading them, it's the very first time that I'm taking a look at them. And what I tried to do is just make sure that I give you an honest, straightforward answer as to what I would talk about, what I would look into if you were sitting directly in front of me or across from me, typically on Skype, and go over where you need to be looking, right? So it's like a second opinion as to what you might be missing, or that one little tweak that you need in order to finally get the results that you deserve. So I'm always excited to be able to review these questions each and every weekend, try to give you the best answer to the best of my ability, and then allow you to get started, whether it be an at-home lab test or seeking out a different type of practitioner, or it might be working on exercise, a specific type, or meditation, or a nutritional supplement, or cognitive behavioral therapy-based technique, like whatever it is. We try to pull from our entire wellness-based arsenal, right? That's what we're all about, is an integrative health practitioner practice, where you don't say one form of medicine is the best form of medicine. Yes, they're all the best form of medicine. So like you can make an actual argument that Ayurveda is the best form of medicine, and you make an argument that conventional medicine is the best form of medicine. And you can make an argument that bioregulatory medicine is the best form of medicine. The truth is that all of those are true in this specific circumstance. So when I'm looking at overall healthy living and living within your own unique dosha, body type, and season, Ayurveda, there's no better. Ayurveda is number one. But let's say that someone is having a heart attack. Well, conventional medicine is number one then for that. They should get to their emergency room. Now, could you use some cayenne tinctures while it's happening? Yes, you could do things like that from natural medicine, but it better be on the way to your emergency room, right? And then if we're talking about the different phases of how someone gets sick and moves through that pathophysiology of disease, well, bioregulatory medicine is fantastic at being able to look at a chart which is called homotoxicology, and you can look back for a previous podcast on that and see where you are in that disease-based process. So again, I can make it account for everything, like every single one. So that's why I want you to know is that I try to stay as unbiased as possible. It's why I've studied essentially every form of medicine. And I want you to know that the recommendations I make are there to fit the person, not to fit some type of agenda that I have or some trying to promote one specific type of medicine. I think that can be dangerous. And the problem is when a lot of doctors or health practitioners study one form of medicine, and that becomes their life, well, that is who they are, and they will fight tooth and nail to say that this is the way to do it, when really it should be about the patient. It should be about the wellness client sitting across from them. Having said all that, let's get into some questions. The first question today is from Elena, and Elena is asking, hello, Dr. Cabral. I'm so grateful for all the work you and your team do. I am a colon hydrotherapist and listen to your podcast daily and happily share your name and podcast with my clients. 2 questions. My period has become very mucousy, no other symptoms, regular cycle, no discomfort, just all mucus mixed with blood. It has been going on for over a year. Should I be concerned? I'm 31, no kids, have never been on birth control. Second question, I'm on day 11 of the Dr. Cabral detox. Absolutely love it. I lost 11 pounds already. My skin is cleared up, feeling energized, just suffering without my chocolate. I noticed the whites of my eyes are getting yellow. That happened before when I was doing a 7 to 14 day juice fast or master cleanse. What could it be? In the past, the issue would go away once I got off the cleanse. Many blessings. All right, Elena can help you with both of these questions. So the first, let's talk about the mucus that you're saying, very mucousy with your menstrual cycle. Okay, so one of the things we have to understand is that the body will produce mucus if there is a call to produce mucus, meaning like, okay, the body will produce more mucus in most people that consume dairy. There's no doubt about that. And it's a mucousy, kapha-based food. Now, let's say that you started to eat more dairy, especially like in the springtime where it's very damp, and you wrote in on June 9th, that would still be considered spring in a lot of parts of the world. Okay, so some of the reasons could be food-based. Did you change your foods? But I'm not leaning in that direction right now. Because a lot of times when you get mucus in the stool or you get mucus from maybe vaginal discharge in general or mixed with your menstrual cycle, it can be because of pH. So think of it this way. The more acidic the colon becomes, and you probably know this as well, Elena, because you're a colon hydrotherapist, or the intestines become, the more mucus the body will secrete. And it does that naturally to actually create a coating, a layer over the skin. In this case, we'll call it the villi or the enterocytes or the lamina propria of the intestines. And you don't need to know what all that means, but it's like the skin, right? You create mucus. And it does that to essentially cool and coat the lining, and eventually it starts to become a biofilm, etc. Okay? The other thing that it does is that we create mucus to increase the flow of white blood cells. And we do that when there is some type of inflammation caused by either food sensitivities, candida, SIBO, you name it, right? Something going on inside the intestines. Well, it's actually not uncommon for the same thing to happen with the vaginal flora. A couple things. One is you could have candida overgrowth, and that can happen. Like, did you take antibiotics a year ago, a year and a half ago or so? Or did you start to change the diet a bit? Or like there's all sorts of different reasons. You could have gotten a yeast-based infection, and it could be local as well. So what I like to say is that there's always a reason why. And to get you started on figuring out what this is, I would go for what I believe it most likely is, which is yeast candida based. So I would run an organic acids test. The other thing that I would do, if you can, is I would run a stool test. And the reason is that this could be bacterial-based, and we have to keep in mind that there's different types of bacteria. Some are more aerobic we call it, and that would be more oxygen-based. And then there's some that are more anaerobic-based bacteria. Believe it or not, the vaginal flora should be more anaerobic or more acidic. So you need a lower pH for the vaginal canal. And it's very, very important. If not, you allow bacteria to flourish. And when that happens, you create more mucus or vaginal discharge. I don't know that I've ever done a whole show on this before, but I've certainly talked about it before because you can look up boric acid, BORIC, and then acid on my shows, and I talk about this on house calls of how to get rid of bacterial vaginosis, vaginal discharge locally. But remember, always run that organic acids test and stool test to see if there's a buildup in the intestines because the vaginal flora does share a lot of the same bacteria as the intestines. All right, Elena, kind of a long question, but hopefully that helps. Or not a long question, but a long answer. And then the whites of the eyes turn a little yellow. Well, that has to do often with the liver. So if it's happening to you, we want to make sure that we're going to be ending that detox or cleanse just like you talked about soon. Because we're doing a lot of detox. We want to make sure that all of that calms down. Sometimes you can start to detox, very quickly, especially if it's built up quite a bit, which is why we do recommend every 12 weeks you do a functional medicine detox so you don't allow all of this to build up. These are great questions. Thank you, Elena. Elijah is up next. Hello, I was wondering if Dr. Cabral is taking any more clients. I'm 19 years old and started with debilitating social anxiety in high school, manifested with some tremors. I was wondering if Dr. Cabral could help me in any way. I ended up dropping out of school my junior year and finishing online. I also have yet to get a job or pursue a naturopathic degree, kind of a dream of mine, LOL, because I just can't seem to function. My life seems to be on hold for the past 3 to 4 years. My MD has been no help, just preached Xanax, which I hate taking, due to feeling like an emotionless zombie. His labs showed me that my stress hormones was within normal range, just ended up making him and my parents assume it was all in my head. I need help finding answers. I'm tired of doing it all alone. Please let me know if you're accepting new clients. Elijah would be happy to help you, for sure. So anybody that wants to apply to the private practice, there's always a link on, I think, every podcast page, right in the show notes that says apply to the private practice. I actually don't know if that's true. I have an amazing team. So keep in mind that we run now a machine. That's literally a global practice working with people in 19 countries around the world. It is certainly not all me running this practice, right? So like I'm creating the podcast, I'm formulating all the products, I'm doing anything to do with content and images and all that good stuff. Let's see. Apply to Dr. Cabral's private practice. Okay. So it's on every podcast page, and you can just click on any one at stevencabral.com/podcast. And then it just like literally is a link. Like I'm recording this on Thursday, and we just did this. I hope that you check it out. It's a great body weight time circuit that you could do, an exercise that takes you no more than 5 minutes of a workout that you can do anywhere you want. And it's pretty fantastic. We have all the images there. I'm actually just looking at it. They did a great job with the images, which I approve ahead of time. But then right below that, it just says apply to Dr. Cabral's private practice. And it just tells you about the private practice and then has a link to fill out an intake form. So yes, please go right over there, check it out. And then if you didn't want to apply directly to the practice and do a call every month for 3 months to make sure that we walk you through everything, it's the highest level of working with us, and we do it through Skype. But let's say you didn't want to do that. You could run what's going on right now with at least our starter kit, which is the organic acids test and the hair tissue mineral analysis. And Elijah, if I were you, like, here's one thing you could do. If you didn't want to do the private practice and you want to put all your money towards labs, I would run the Big Five. I mean, the Big Five is going to give you everything that we need to be able to walk you through the process of getting well again. And I truly believe that. I would never tell people that I can help them or my team can help them if I didn't believe that. And that's the truth. Like, that is the absolute truth. There's no way that anyone should have to be living right now with massive anxiety, with panic attacks, and emotional imbalances. There's just not. We can help you, for sure. I know that. And so anyway, my job is to help people. That's it. That is that. And those are a couple options right there, because I don't want to force people into one particular option. Okay, Kath is up next. C-A-T-H, Kath. Hi there, and thank you for everything. I aim to keep this short, love the rain barrel effect and everything you teach. I've done all your labs and tests and protocols, and my nutrition and lifestyle are dialed in. However, even prior to reading your book, I was already doing all that stuff. After I overtaxed my body in the past, I know the reasons I got ill with fatigue, digestion, and amenorrhea. I researched the parasympathetic nervous system and Ayurveda, and I've learned a lot over 4 years. So I do the nutrition supplements along the lifestyle and mindset. I sleep well, go to bed early. It's a longer question, so I'm going to move through it. I'm going to give you the outline right now, and then everyone can go to stevencabral.com/1275 and read over all the questions. It's nice to kind of be able to read along with them as well. Okay, I try to cultivate peace in my life. I have 3 children, 7, 9, and 12, who I'd love to enjoy more. I haven't been able in the 4 years since I crashed. I'm mostly a Vata body type. I'm trying to do gentle yoga. I know the reasons I got ill. What am I missing? I'm careful with my language around my subconscious. I'm recavitating all of my teeth. I can't afford, I think, what else I could do. I'm about a year into your protocols, detoxes and CBO, and seeing a huge result. I just don't know where to go from there. I'm already working with your coaches, having worked with many coaches in the past. Sorry, this ended up being very long. Okay, so let me see if I get this. It looks like you essentially were coming from where I did, is you burned out. Like you just completely burned out, right? And so here's what we need to do, because you're probably on the right path. It's just like your body's an organism, and over the past, let's say 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, you've been rebuilding, right? Because you burned out 4 years ago or more. Probably even longer, right? Because you have 3 children, 7, 9, and 12. Like, I mean, remember, your body has been giving everything. Literally, it's vitamins, it's minerals, it's fatty acids. And then you gave your time and you gave up your sleep and all those things for your children. So we need to look at it as, how do we rebuild this organism? That's really what it is. Like, you are not your body. Like, I want to separate that for everyone out there right now. You are not your body. Your body is connected through your mind and nervous system. And you can either wear it out or you can regenerate it. We need to regenerate yours. I invite you, if you have not already, to join the Integrative Health Practitioner course. You don't have to sign up to do the certification or become a health coach. But I really recommend, anyone can do it, is that you get immersed in this, because you need what's called the graduated exercise protocol. You also need to be tracking your heart rate variability or your parasympathetic nervous system. And then also look at your hair tissue mineral analysis. I know you can only run it really every 8 months or so, but look at your thyroid adrenal hormone. And if your cortisol levels are starting to come back to normal, you might not feel it yet, but your body is regenerating. And that's why lab tests are actually definitive. They can tell you how you're doing, yes or no. If you are 4 high on your hair tissue mineral analysis, are you coming back down to normal? Or if you are 4 low, which you may have been, are you coming back up? Because if you are, well, then you're regenerating. So it will get there, like you're getting there. And then make sure, like if you're someone that's burnt out, you probably have to do 2 shakes a day to get all the nutrients back in your body. Very easy to digest meals. What I'm trying to tell you basically is that you need to give your body this safe, nourishing, anti-vata based protocol, light massage, early to bed before 10 p.m., ideally around 9 p.m., is that you are doing your meditation, that you're relaxing, but you're also, because it doesn't seem like your hair yet, you need to get into that space and listen to my Mindset and Motivation Mondays, that it's already done, Kath. It's already done. You are now just stepping into it. So you have to get to the point where you're not stressed and worried that you're not going to get there anymore. You're doing the work. You need to allow yourself now to step into that space where it's already been done. You have put in the work. Every day in every way, I'm getting better and better. That is your mantra. Every day in every way, I'm getting better and better. I'm doing the work. I've done the work. It's already been done. I'm going to start to live that life. And I know that it's not easy to get back into it, but you're doing the nutrition, you're doing the diet, the exercise, right? The stress reduction, the toxin removal. You're doing the right things, the 12-hour overnight fasting. So now let's step into the process, and that's what I invite you. And again, check those labs. Make sure you are actually improving. All right, Brooke's up next. I've had psoriatic arthritis for 2 years. I'm 68 years old. I take Remicade infusions every 8 weeks and methotrexate, 3 pills every 2 weeks. This is all working great, but I'd love to get off if possible. I don't eat any grains, milk products, or sugar. I take turmeric with black pepper daily and eat mainly organic. Any suggestions? Brooke, happy to help. My father had this condition a while back, and I was able to help him with the same thing. So, same drugs, everything. Here's what we need to do. You have to be careful, right? Because you're on these biological, like I call them shutdown drugs. They're shutting down the immune system, right? So it's like, yeah, you're feeling okay, but it's only because you're shutting down a part of your immune system, which is attacking. Here's what we need to do. We need to do the detox, no doubt about it. Ideally the 21-day, if you can do it. Even if you can just do the 7-day and then kind of follow through the 3 through 7 meal plan for the next 2 weeks. But also, we need to run those big 5 labs. And if you can't afford the big 5 labs, I understand. At least start with the starter kit. The organic acids test and the hair tissue mineral analysis. At least there. Because we need to figure out the why, right? Like, why do you have psoriatic arthritis? You can't tell me it's genetic. All 4 of my grandparents had rheumatoid arthritis. Both my parents, rheumatoid arthritis. I got rheumatoid arthritis at 17, 18 years old. Yeah, there's a genetic component. But now, 20 plus years later, I don't have rheumatoid arthritis. Well, but how is that possible? It's in my genetics. Well, you can turn on or off your genetics. So that's what we want to do. Take care of whatever's going on with the gut, viruses, poor immune system, low vitamins, low minerals, and we'll be able to slowly work the process where you'll work with your specialists and you'll try to do less of the infusions and less of the drugs until you can get to the point where the natural health and rebuilding of the body is taking over. All right? Great question, Brooke. Oh, by the way, I haven't really said this, but if you're new to the podcast, all of the labs that we use in our private practice are able to now be gotten anywhere in the world at equilibriumnutrition.com. And those labs come with a consultation with a health coach and a personalized protocol that I personally oversee. Okay, Sue's up next. All right. Hi, Dr. Cabral. My dad's 71, and he just got diagnosed with high blood pressure and irregular heart rhythm. His doctor prescribed some heavy medications to prevent blood clotting, stroke, and basically said there's nothing else he could do because it was hereditary, plus he's getting older. I don't buy it. I know you say there's always an underlying root cause of all disease, which should be treated and not dealing with just the symptoms. What would you advise about this? Do you have any suggestions to prevent this from happening in the future? Thanks in advance for your help. And thank you so much for this podcast and your incredible health advice. Your advice, you are a treasure. Thank you, Sue. I appreciate the kind words. I really do. Everybody who writes in and writes these kind things, it truly means a lot to me. I kind of, I glaze over it a little bit. I don't make it a big thing because I'm still a little weird for me, getting praise and things like that. Something I'm working on. I'm better working on absorbing it and being, of course, I'm very appreciative and grateful for sure, but being able to kind of absorb that. But I thank you everyone for writing in, and I appreciate you. So here's the thing. I did a whole podcast on the high blood pressure hoax, and it is a hoax. And you can go back and you can listen to that podcast. I mean, if you go to stevencabral.com/podcasts and you type in high blood pressure, you're going to find that podcast. And I want everyone to do that because you wrote in the beginning of June, and it's now the beginning of August, right? So because we're usually 10 to 12 weeks behind. We're catching up a little bit. I think we're like 8 weeks behind. So, if I just type in high blood pressure, it pulls up 2 pages of shows. So now I just need to go through those 2 pages of shows and find out which one it is. And then I go, oh, okay, episode 108, way back in the day, over 3 years ago, the high blood pressure hoax. And it tells you, essentially, okay, high blood pressure could be higher cortisol. It could be low levels of magnesium as opposed to calcium. It could be low levels of potassium as opposed to sodium. That's why it's not a high salt diet that causes high blood pressure. It's an imbalance between magnesium and sodium and potassium. That's not the only things. Then there's also stenosis or hardening of the arteries. Okay, this can take a little bit more time, but you can use proteolytic enzymes. And then you also want to reduce norepinephrine or stress hormones and cortisol, and you can run a hormone-based test for this. So again, higher levels of omega-6s to omega-3s constrict the arteries because there's more inflammation. So I would run the big 5 labs. I mean, that's when you have a serious disease. I know not everyone's able to afford this, and I know this from personal experience. When I go back and, my mom and I were sitting in these doctors' offices, we couldn't afford all the labs. They were pay out of pocket, right? And still that way to this day because they're not diagnostic, right? We're not diagnosing disease. What we're doing is helping people heal from an underlying root cause. And it's crazy because health insurance doesn't pay for that. So here's the thing, though. The big 5 labs is going to give you the information that you really need. It really is. But then, if you can't do all 5 labs, you just do them in order of importance, like that you need. And so for high blood pressure, I'm recommending the adrenal hormone or the thyroid adrenal hormone first. Then after that, I would recommend the hair tissue mineral analysis. Then after that, I would recommend the organic acids test. Then I would recommend the omega-3 test, and then I would recommend the food sensitivity test in that order for you. So hopefully that was helpful. If you can't run all big 5, that's the order that I would do them in, Sue, and then you can actually see what some of these underlying root causes are, and that will hopefully get your dad back on track. And anybody who has high blood pressure will help them get back on track. Remember, there's always an underlying root cause. It doesn't mean that you're going to be able to fix it tomorrow, but it does mean that it's able to be fixed, and you'll go back to living that healthy life, and hopefully a much longer life than you would being medicated and saying, oh, there's nothing you could do, it's hereditary. Sure, it's hereditary. If you read my book, The Rain Barrel Effect, everything has a genetic component, but it doesn't mean that genetic or that gene has to express itself. It expresses itself because of the environment in which the cell or the gene is now within. We're going to keep it at that for today. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. I appreciate you. I did forget yesterday to let you know that I believe it's tomorrow. I'm not even sure if that's correct, but it's the last day to get your free bottle of Balanced Zinc on the website at equilibriumnutrition.com. Check out the outro for more information on that. And that's it. We'll be back tomorrow answering more of our community's questions. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And as always, if this was helpful, please do feel free to pass this show along to anyone else you believe it could serve. Did you know that the body really only becomes sick or imbalanced in only 2 ways? Over time, you become deficient in vital nutrients, and you also accumulate toxins internally and from the environment. As those nutrients diminish and you increase your total toxic load, your body then begins to show the first signs of dis-ease. It's actually quite predictable, and the good news is that if we know how you began to fill up that proverbial rain barrel, we also know how to empty it to begin the healing process. I was fortunate enough to learn this ancient healing process from my mentor after suffering from debilitating diseases for close to a decade. It was only when I began to implement these techniques did I finally overcome my illnesses and go on to live a life of energy and vitality that I now enjoy. I'd like to share with you now what I discovered after traveling all over the world and how to combine the best of ancient healing wisdom with state-of-the-art science. Allow me to teach you exactly how I've been able to help over 250,000 people to empty their rain barrel and begin to transform their body and lives into what they've always hoped they could be. To get your copy of the international bestseller, The Rain Barrel Effect, simply go to StephenCabral.com/rainbarrel.